Welcome to Wise Minds, Wild Hearts, the podcast for heart-led high achievers just like you, ready to take inspired action and achieve true alignment. If you're craving deeper influence, greater impact, and a life that genuinely lights you up, you're in the right place. I'm Kip Clark, former academic turned entrepreneur, transformational coach, elite athlete, and shameless fountain pen addict. Here, you'll learn how to leverage the beautiful wisdom of your years with the wild passion that drives you forward. Together, we'll break through those limiting beliefs, unlock the power of your subconscious mind, and create a life that aligns with your soul's desire. Ready to create the kind of impact you've always dreamed of? Let's do this. Hello there and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that's come up a few times when I've been working with clients who are bringing a new project or a goal, or they're pivoting in some way in their lives. And that's the phases of growth. And there are several different phases. And I wanted to talk about them a little bit with you today because I think it's valuable to understand that there are phases we all go through whenever we're working towards a particular goal or a vision we have. Very rarely does it all just go smoothly and straightforwardly where we decide what we want, we work towards it, and we get it. I mean, that does happen sometimes, but in my experience, and certainly in the experience of my clients and pretty much everybody I know, it's not quite as smooth and straightforward as that. So understanding that there are different phases of growth, knowing what phase you're in, knowing what's next, knowing how to set yourself up for success in each of these phases, that's, I think, really, really valuable. So the first phase is what I refer to as the calling. So this is where you have a feeling, and it's usually something in your body. You'll have a kind of a sensation about something, and it will arise when you're thinking about a particular goal or project or vision you have for something, whether it's for yourself or something you want to create or make or build or produce. This can also be referred to as a hit or a vibe that you get, but it's just this sensation that you're meant for something. It may not be clear yet. And so because it's often not that clear at the beginning, we can go into the second phase of growth, which is the refusal phase. And this is one that I am familiar with myself, where I have a sensation, I have a feeling about something. I keep thinking about a project perhaps, but I put it aside, I brush it off. I think, I don't have time now, or that's not something that I really should be doing, or I'm just not paying attention to the signals that I'm getting. That's the refusal stage. And then what can happen, and that doesn't always show up for us, but often it does, the refusal. And if it does, then what can happen, and again, I've been through this myself, we get, I'll call it maybe a nudge. It can be a nudge at first, or it can be like getting a cosmic frying pan up the back of the head. And that's the universe saying, okay, you can't ignore us anymore. This is something that you need to be paying attention to. You need to get to work on this. So let's go. So that's the third phase. We've had that initial calling. We may refuse it or ignore it. And then all of a sudden we can't ignore it anymore. So then we make a decision. We make a decision that we're going to go for this. We may not have an idea about how that's going to happen. That's okay. In fact, I would argue it's almost better initially if you don't know how, because then you're much more open to anything. If you already have an idea about exactly how it will go and you stay rigidly fixed on that idea, you may lose out on an opportunity for something that's even more amazing, more magical, that creates what you're trying to make more easily, more quickly, less frustratingly, etc. So the decision, when you make that decision, you set an intention, you're going to go for this. Then the next phase is when the supporting cast starts showing up. And so you've maybe heard the expression, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So this could be in the form of some kind of teacher or mentor. It might be a course you come across that would be exactly what you need to move you forward with this project or goal you have. It might be in the form of a coach that you come across, someone who seems exactly to be the right kind of person you feel will support you with this, some kind of mentor or guide. You may also feel a kind of spiritual guidance that you're getting. You've made the decision to go for it, and all of a sudden you feel like you're getting messages, it's like you're downloading instructions. I've had clients tell me that they made a decision to go for something, and then later on that day they may be having a shower, and all of a sudden it's like inspiration is coming out of the shower head. They couldn't believe it. It's like they were open, and they became a channel for all these great ideas and things that they could do to help them realize their dreams. So that's kind of the fun part. When the supporting cast starts showing up, it can feel really serendipitous. It can feel magical. And so things can go along like that for a period of time. But then often what happens is we can hit what's called the dark night of the soul. And so this phase of growth it can feel unfortunate, can feel really uncomfortable, really difficult. You can feel like you need to just give up on everything. But I promise you that a breakdown like that, when you hit a dark night of the soul, a breakdown is always followed by a breakthrough. If you're willing to stick with it, if you're willing to really turn and face whatever it is that you're being confronted with, maybe there's something you've been avoiding, and all of a sudden you're being asked not to avoid it anymore. And that it maybe feels scary. It feels awful in some way. But if that's what you need to do, and you just get down to the work and you do it, then you'll get through this really difficult phase, a little faster. If you don't, if you allow the dark night of the soul to stop you in your tracks, maybe you feel like you just want to curl up in the corner in the fetal position and rock for 5 months. That's obviously not going to be helpful. Maybe what's needed is that you take a moment, you stop, you reflect, you stop the things you're doing. Maybe you do lots of meditation. Maybe you go and talk with someone. You do whatever you need to do to get through it, but trying to avoid it, pretending this dark night of the soul isn't happening, that's not what's needed here. And again, you may not experience that in the process, but if you do, just know that it's normal. It happens to most of us. It may happen more than once. I've certainly had several episodes when I was going for a particular goal of having this kind of scenario where all of a sudden I feel like, oh my gosh, what is this thing I'm being confronted with? And how have I not been honest about something? How have I been avoiding something? What do I need to do to deal with this effectively so I can get into alignment and get back at creating what I want to create here? So staying with it, being willing to just experience the discomfort for as long as it takes, getting help, absolutely. But that's what will lead you to your breakthrough. So the breakdown is always followed by a breakthrough if you'll stick with it. And the breakthrough is wonderful. That's when you suddenly feel lighter, you get clarity. You get a new level of understanding you didn't have before. You realize it was necessary to go through that difficult time and totally worth it, because now you've evolved to a point where you're in a much better place to be able to make your dream happen. And then the next phase following the breakthrough is the momentum phase. And this is where you're going to feel that you're really in alignment. Things have suddenly gotten a lot easier. You don't really have to worry about what's next because it just seems to magically arise. You just have a sense of the next thing, the next right thing that's needed to be done. And so this is a really lovely phase of the whole growth process. And then the next is the manifestation phase. So this is where you really start to realize your dream, whatever that might be, whether it's success of some kind, abundance of some kind, you've created something. So you're really seeing it come to fruition now, and it's absolutely wonderful. Know that you can experience other dark nights of the soul. They may not be quite as dramatic. They may be smaller in scale, smaller in impact, but they will still show up at times. That's entirely possible. And again, totally normal. And so in this manifestation phase, it can go along fairly smoothly, or you might have little hiccups along the way, but that's all part of the process. And then finally, you get to expansion. So this is where you can experience real growth. You're able to scale what you're doing. You're experiencing greater wealth if that was part of your goal. You're having a sense of having a much bigger impact in the world. And you just know you're on purpose. You're thriving. You feel expansive. If it's just, it feels amazing. And then again, at that point, when you're in this expansive phase and you start thinking about scaling and growing what you're doing, you can end up getting right back at that first phase of this new growth again, where you're getting a nudge or a calling to go in another direction or to expand in a particular way. So understanding these different phases of growth, they weave in and out among each other at times. At other times, you can just feel like it's so straightforward here. I'm just moving along beautifully. Whatever your experience is, I encourage you to stay with it, to understand that everybody is going to have a different journey getting from point A to point B, whatever that point B is. Everyone's experience will be different because every person is unique. Your experiences, the way you think about things, your values, your belief system, those all have an impact on how you approach what's in front of you, how you deal with things, how you create momentum. But it can be really fun. And if you're able to back up a little bit, if you're able to zoom out and take a kind of meta look at everything, to take an overview look and just be really curious about it, and especially be curious about, how is this helping me to grow and evolve as a human? How will this help me to serve the people I serve even better, even more powerfully, even more impactfully? Then that is absolutely the perfect place for you to be, to stay curious, to stay engaged with it, to not have this idea that you've got it all figured out already, or there, it's finished, you're done, you're complete. No. Ambitious people like you and like me, we're always oriented towards greater growth, greater development, bigger, more impactful kinds of projects and goals. And so these phases are a natural part of that process and not something to be avoided. Okay, I hope this has been really helpful to you. And if it has, and if you can think of another person or some other people that might benefit from listening to this, I encourage you to share this episode with anyone in your community, in your outreach. And also, if you can help me to grow the podcast by liking, by following, subscribing, that would be amazing. And leaving a review also helps other people understand that this podcast can help with growth and transformation, that you found it useful, and that can be helpful to them too. So anything you can do to help share this, spread the word, I'm very, very grateful to you for that. All right, my friends, that's it for this episode. If this has been helpful to you, let me know. I love to hear about all the positive changes you're making in your life. And if there's someone you know who might benefit from hearing this message, please share the love, my friend. See you next time on Wise Minds, Wild Hearts.